Hi, everybody. This is Arthi from Human Chapters. I'll tell you a little bit about it. Humans are living narratives with a past, present, and future. These narratives constitute of a number of chapters across a lifespan. The aim of these conversations is to highlight a chapter of the narrative and unpack its connections to other chapters. I don't care whether people are natural storytellers, but I truly do believe we all have a worthy story to share. In acknowledgement to country, we acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which we are. We pay respect to their tribal elders, past and present and emerging. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Today, we're going to be speaking to George, and it's going to be about his carer's journey. Welcome, George. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you for your time and your listeners. It means a lot to me and my family. Unfortunately, I lost my mother due to Parkinson's disease on 1/1/2020. So I really fell into a world of caregiving that I don't know if anyone could really prepare for or train. And, I've always believed that my mother sacrificed a lot during her life so I could be who I am today. And I really would never have let her go through that struggle alone. So that's when she had Parkinson's for 15 years. I took over a lot of her life the last 4 years. And unfortunately, we lost our battle in Parkinson. But today, I believe in my heart I have to keep fighting in her memory. But for all those others, individuals who are still fighting throughout the world, it's the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world, unfortunately, Parkinson's, and there is no cure. But I was shocked to find out in the United States there's about 1 million people, but around the world there's over 10 million. Yesterday was actually Parkinson's Awareness Day in the world, this month is Parkinson's Awareness Month, so there can't be a better time to have met with you. And I'm so grateful for your time because this also isn't just about a podcast. I feel it's really something that has to continue to be shared. I hope everyone listening shares it. I'll be adding it to my site and sharing it. But if we even just reach one person out there and taught them a little bit more, then we've changed the world for better. So again, I'm really grateful for you and your listeners for the opportunity today.
You're very welcome, George. Tell us a little bit more about Parkinson's. What is it? How does it happen? What causes it? Yeah, just for those that are
Uh,
not aware of it.
I think that question could get a 10-hour answer and then you won't want me back. But it is the tough topic because number one, Parkinson's is different, unfortunately, to everyone. That's why it's so difficult, to find a cure. We're not really sure why someone gets it. They don't think it's genetics, but we do think it's the environment. I've spoke with a few experts in the field, and they really think it's the pesticides, it's the water, it's the chemicals, even dry cleaning. I learned the spray that they use cannot possibly cause it. I feel my mother was a very healthy person, strong, independent. She lived in a nice home, but for 20 years it had mold, it had, termites. So we don't really know who knows what back then they were spraying. I do think it is environment. Again, I don't have Parkinson's. I don't know if I will have it. But the big problem right now in the fight against the cure or for the cure and for awareness is really finding the right techniques, right now we can slow down the progression through exercise, fitness, dieting, but there's really again no cure. My mother had signs she had for 15 years. The first several years didn't really affect her life. She was still able to live alone. She was a divorced single mother of two, and she had drove, she shopped, she had a nice life. But the last 4 years, she went for a special study, and we don't know to this day if they kind of changed her medicine too drastically. But that's when her whole life started kind of declining. That's when I took over. But the major signs are usually tremors. So you'll see individuals just uncontrollable shaking. Famous actor, Mr. Michael J. Fox, if you're aware, he is one of the most famous advocates because he has Parkinson's, but he fights it. He's raised over $2 billion, not million, but billion. And I've had the honor to work at events with the Michael J. Fox Foundation. I started to get together for Sharon.com, and we'll probably get to that, but we don't want money. We just want everyone to know you're not alone in this fight. We send our love and support, and I'm never going to stop fighting until we find a cure.
Beautiful. George, tell us a bit more about what your care involved when it came to your own journey.
Yeah, care for my mother is a different world than care for myself. I didn't do a good job at self-care. Even today, I do a lot of speaking and talks, and sometimes I leave the room. I'm fine. I'm like 6'2", 200 pound, big, tall guy, but this stuff is still tough to talk about. I'm still grieving my loss. She's only been gone for 4 years, but she was my best friend. I'm proud of saying I'm a mama's boy, because she was always the one I turned to for, good, bad, and ugly, and not having the phone call from her every day is still, tough. But for caring for my mother was not easy. I'm actually giving a speech tomorrow on male caregivers, which I was shocked when they asked me, because I didn't realize that it was such an epidemic, that there are just either not a lot of male caregivers,
Mm.
or they're just not speaking out. And I was honored to be asked. So tomorrow I'll be at a summit speaking on that. But caring for my mother was a different situation. As a male, obviously you can't do everything. You can't be in the certain private areas like bathroom and things. So I had to actually almost hire a staff to help her, because I didn't want her to fall. I knew Parkinson's was bad enough, by the way. So she had a stiffness in her left arm. So that was one of the big signs. And it didn't affect her for many years, but it started catching up. She also had dystonia, which is the curling of the toes, and her stomach was really, in a way, destroyed due to all the medicine. So some of the main symptoms are freezing gait, where people almost feel like they can't move, and things like tremors, and also the dystonia. Those are some signs. But caring for my mother, I didn't have any training. I did take a course. I have a lot of education, but I could never have planned for that. There were some tough days where I wanted to give up, days where I was upset, angry, not at her, but at the disease. So we hired a staff to come in, and that cost $12,000 a month. So we were spending a tremendous amount of money just so she wouldn't fall. We had to fire many of them because they didn't even know what Parkinson's was. But I just knew in my heart I didn't want to regret anything, and I'm proud to say today, only thing I regret is we didn't find a cure, but I did everything that I could have to
Mm.
try to help comfort her. So that was important to me.
Yeah. Um, and then having the aid at home, but for yourself, did you say you had another sibling too? What was it like for the family, sort of going through the journey with your mum?
It was very difficult because I'm actually writing a children's book about it. I didn't know how to explain to my daughter. I have three children.
Mm.
Thankfully, my wife was also my mother's best friend, so we were all very close. So when I couldn't be home, my wife did an incredible job caring for the children. And we recently released our book yesterday, which was really exciting. And it's called The Son's Journey from Parkinson's Disease Caregiver to Advocate. This is it. And the
Yes.
picture, actually, I have a story, maybe if we have time later. But
Yeah.
one chapter is about my wife, and others about my children. One sadder side was one day I was on my mother, unfortunately, the last 4 years also, we believe, had late onset dementia. And that brought not only the other issues of Parkinson's, but now hallucinations and delusions, which were another horror story, because my mother some days didn't know if the person was in the room was real or not. She was telling me she saw her parents who passed away, her animals, her first dog.
Mm.
Sometimes we would giggle, but not in a funny way, just in a way like, uncomfortable. Like we
Mhm.
didn't know what to do. But there was one specific day that breaks my heart still. My daughter was 7 at the time, and my mother and my daughter, her granddaughter, were the best friends. Because my mother never had a girl, so she always dreamt of having a girl. And when we told her we're having my daughter, she was so happy because she could dress her in doll stuff and buy her, makeup. So that was one of her favorite days ever. But we were sitting there, Brooke, my daughter, my mother, and I, on her bed on a Sunday morning, and the dementia just set in, and my mother started hugging her pillows, saying how much she loved Brooke.
Mm.
But it wasn't Brooke. So she thought it was Brooke, but it was really sheets and pillows. So Brooke was, 7, and looked at me like, and I didn't know what to say. And we kind of again giggled uncomfortably. But those are the things that I wish I had more awareness, and there needs to be some more for children. As far as family, unfortunately, my father wasn't around. He's in New York. A lot of her family is good and nice, but they weren't able to just, be there like I was. And my brother had his own issues, so he really wasn't around. He might drop by and say hi, but he couldn't help care for her. So I did unfortunately bear the burden of everything. But like I said, I like challenges, and the only thing I didn't like is we tried everything. I mean, we tried several doctors, even got a license for medical marijuana, which was a disaster too. It's in the book. We tried everything, and to this day, there's nothing else I believe we could have tried except to find a cure, which was, too late for us.
Yeah. So you obviously have your own podcast, and what types of things have you tried to share and have you discovered while sharing your journey?
These are great questions, so thank you for them. Before I was in the world of caregiving with my mother, I actually became an attorney in Florida and Washington, D.C., and I became a police officer. Then I did my PhD in criminal justice, and I'm a professor. So I've always advocated in my whole life for victims of crime. My dissertation was on aiding African American mothers who lost their loved one due to murder. I always felt that the family members are also victims because they're forgotten by the criminal justice system. And I kind of relate that to today in caregiving because Parkinson's disease, we never had a law in the US or anything, even by many countries,
Mm,
to help support the people who are diagnosed in the family. Thankfully, in the United States, for the first time in history, last December, the House of Representatives of the United States passed the first bill in US history called the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease. That's spearheaded by the Michael J. Fox Foundation. I've been honored again to be a part of that initiative. And we're hoping next year, hopefully very soon, it'll go to the United States Senate if it passes because it's bipartisan, which it shouldn't. I don't know who would be against the cure for Parkinson, but if it passes, the president, whoever it is, just signs it in law, and then now we can get federal funding to find a cure and to help people. So that was one thing that I have hope for, and I'm
mm.
hoping to. I'm not sure where you're located. I think where were you located again?
So in Victoria, in Australia. Yeah, yeah.
Actually, yeah, so we'll get to that soon, but I'm hoping that one, if we pass it, that other countries like Australia, UK can take this as a boiler point and pass it there. I realized a year or two ago that it's not just about me and my mother anymore. I
Mm,
felt it was a bigger picture and I wanted to share other journeys. And I was again shocked to find out there's people around the world that are suffering. So I actually interviewed 600 people from Australia. So I
mm,
actually interviewed Parkinson's Australia to England, to France, to Spain, to Iceland, to India. I've actually probably interviewed someone in every country, and I did it and it's all free on my togetherforsharon.com, and it's completely free. You can see because I wanted to inspire others and make sure people know that they're not alone. Because a lot of people like me as a caregiver felt alone, and
mm,
people fighting with these still really feel alone. But I try. My dream and goal now is just to fight to that they know that they're never alone in this fight, like I mentioned earlier. But so we started together for Sharon.com. I'm not a company, I'm not a foundation. I don't want to be. I'm just one son and one voice, unfortunately, who lost his best friend, his mother, due to this disease. And it's even still sometimes heartbreaking, even to discuss. Sometimes we do these great talks. I'll go in the other room and fall apart just because it's hard still, but I'm still grieving. And meeting amazing people like you and your audience really was what keeps me going. And we don't accept money. We don't want anything. We have a section on the website that donations, and they're actually beautiful links created by organizations like the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So
mm,
any money donated goes to them in memory of my mother, which is great. We donated about, $20,000 in the last 4 years
mm,
just to help fund research. But and I'm on a mission, and it's not anything more than I just want to end this disease forever. I've been able to, thankfully, through the website, start our own podcast. The other day was an honor. I interviewed a United States Senator, Rick Scott,
mm,
about the national plan. I've interviewed Dr. Ray Dorsey, who's a world renowned doctor, expert in Parkinson's. And I also interviewed Ted Thompson, who's the public policy director of the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
mm,
It's been growing. I mean, I'm kind of burnt out as a caregiver, and even though I'm not caring anymore because I put a lot of endless nights I don't sleep
mm.
thinking about this, and I have to stop doing that because my own relationships are kind of suffering. But it hurts when the only thing that breaks my heart is the journey that I'm not aware of.
Mm. Um, George, if you were to be supported, or sort of let's take the point of hindsight now. If you were to be supported as a carer when you were going through your journey, what are some of the things that you would have wished were in place or scaffolds that were there, just to ease that burden a little bit more?
Yeah, one thing I love about the book I just published is it actually goes in depth, like a deep, 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 dark inside of what it was like caring for my mother and going through this. But the biggest number message, which I failed, and I'm not lying, I probably would fail again because I didn't want to miss a second with my mother. I wanted her to feel like she was at least comfortable, even though I knew it was a horrible situation. So I didn't. I gave up a lot of my. I love fitness, I love working out, and
Mm,
I even have a group of guys. We play basketball just to forget life every weekend. One day I have broken every ankle from sports, so one day I put all this gear on. It took a half hour, about to run out to play and forget everything. My mother called in fear of her life, and I knew she was safe, but I had to, I dropped my life and ran over every time. And
mm,
I just, I'm glad I did it, but that's not how you do it. Because if you don't take care of your own health first, you're no good to others. So one regret I have, a little bit, not really a regret, because like I said, if I had it again, I would do the same thing. But I do think you have to take care of your own health, diet,
mm.
and exercise. Because if you're not healthy, you're not going to be much help to your loved one. That's one aspect I think I might, try to think about. But just also forget any, I don't want to curse here, but forget any like lame arguments you have with your loved one. This is the time they really need you. Me and my mother, it's funny, like now, we used to fight, like real fights over what restaurant to order on Sunday because we all like to grill of food and we have a big family. So everybody wants here. And there were times where I was getting dizzy. But now Sundays come around, I actually miss that, because it was not important, but it was those memories that are funny and I miss. So that was one thing. But just to answer again the question, I think taking care of yourself is very important.
Um, if you So for the fundraising or for the organizations that are out there, one of the things they're doing is working towards research and working towards a cure. What are some of the other aspects of these organizations that are less well known, that they're still working towards? Because caregiving, just that side of it is, I'm assuming it's so multi-layered.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
unfortunately, this is interesting because I'm actually writing my next book. It's almost done on that. So the first book was dedicated in memory of my mother, but to everyone today fighting Parkinson's and their family. But the next book is actually, I'm hopefully calling it A Seat at the Table. And the reason I call it that is my mother, we don't have a seat for her now. But as a person, I'm not diagnosed with Parkinson's and I'm not caring currently for someone living with Parkinson's. So I'm in like a third category and I do feel that many times I'm forgotten. And that's all the millions, not just million, but the millions could be, who knows, 10 million people who passed away and lost their battle but still need to be remembered and still have a voice because I believe my mother still matters and my voice still can shine. So that's where I'm really moving a lot of my hope to. And some of the organizations are great. They'll offer things, like support groups, but they don't have anything for someone like me. That we started our own through a group in Canada called PSP Awareness. And once a month we have a virtual meeting. It's not recorded, it's free. You can go to Together for Sharing, click about us, and you'll see the support group. And I just wanted a safe space where anyone who lost anyone due to any disease can come and just talk and just be heard and realize that you're never alone. So I find that we have a missing population out there and all the people who, again, should be remembered. They don't have much for us. So I'm going to try hard to make sure they're never forgotten. We just started a section on Together for Sharon called In Memory. And if you click on it, it's only a few stories because it's hard to find the people because number one, I found 600 or more people to interview, but when you're trying to focus more on individuals who are no longer with us, they're not here. And unfortunately, their family members, a lot of them moved on, not because they want to, but because they have to get back to life, but they don't realize that there are people like me out there who feel that I don't want their family member to be forgotten or remembered because of Parkinson.
Mhm.
Parkinson doesn't define you. It might take our loved ones, but we still have a lot more fight left, and I'll continue to do that till we find a cure and end this disease forever.
Yeah. So as a person who, when you're saying that you feel like you've forgotten, what are some of the things you would like to be in place?
Yeah, I mean, give you a quick example. I don't say names, but there was a organization. They sent an email and it said, "Would you like to, be a part of our?" I'll just say team because it's easier. And I wanted it. I figured, I might not get it, or it's like a little board or something. But at
Mm,
least they know I'm out there. So I have a PhD, and I did like I sat for 3 hours, put together this beautiful 3-page essay. I referenced it with APA, beautiful. Put videos, everything. Just again, I didn't think I'd get it, but it's a whatever. I go to submit it, and there were just 2 boxes in my shock. And honestly, hopefully, we're going to become like family because this is not, again, in my opinion, just a talk. I hope we'll continue this for a
mm,
long time. So one button said, uh, you have Parkinson's. The next button said you're a person caregiving for someone alive. And I honestly, I felt like my heart dropped and that my mother passed away again because I'm the third choice that's not included. And that really broke my heart. And I wrote the book in 1 week, like literally. And it's more controversial because I'm not going to say names, but I'm going to break the walls and the barriers and talk about, I've tried to get the media involved. They don't respond.
mm,
Thankfully, I've got a few celebrities. I met Michael J. Fox. I interviewed Muhammad Ali's daughter and also Jack Osborne, Ozzy's son. Ozzy Osbourne wrote a little a video for us, and also Kenny G, the famous saxophone player, played a song, and it's all on my social media. But it's very hard because I'm only one person. I don't have as much reach, and I just find a lot of doors slamming in my face, and all I'm just trying to do is help. And the rare thing is, I'm sure you have a lot of guests, but I literally want nothing but to help people, and I want their journey to be out there. So the more people that are aware, the more likely we'll find a cure. So it's hard because I go on shows and say they'll go like, "Oh, so what is this? You want to sell something?" I'm like, "No." It's like so everyone's in shock and they appreciate it. One other example is we do walks, a lot. Like I'm going to be doing one next week for the American Parkinson's Disease Association and the Parkinson's Foundation. We support all different, organizations that are real and that are really working hard. So I'll have a little table. I'll have a sign with my mother, and we're just there to hug people. And some people actually come up, cry, and thank us. But on the other side, sometimes on both sides of me, are pharmaceutical companies trying to sell things. So people like are scared or timid to come up to me because they think we're selling something. But then when they realize we're not, and because unfortunately, I pour a lot of money of our own and my time and my heart into this, and I'm not gonna ever get it back
mm.
unless we cure. So I mean, we're spending thousands of thousands. Most people can't do that. I don't blame them, but I just feel that somebody's got to do it. And all those people again who are out there suffering, it breaks my heart, and that's why I do what I do.
Um, George, tell us more about your book. What was the process
Thank
like? What are some of the things you've written about for anyone that might be interested in it?
Yeah, this is the book again. It just came out like literally a few days ago, so it's pretty exciting. But it's goes in deep much more than we could go on a show, because we just don't have the time. But I dedicate it to my mother. It goes over the first signs, so first signs of Parkinson's for us, the symptoms and associated illnesses, my
Mhm,
primary caregiving, which again I spend so much time, because talking about my mother, I never really get to my primary caregiving, then my support for my wife, my children, trying to find good aides because we had a very tough time. Finally, great caregiving, the secret. And then one chapter is tough. It's called The Last Week. It was the last week of my mother's life. It was just something it's not describable. And I even have a chapter about her family and friends. So a lot of her best friends throughout her life wrote little stories and shared them. The aftermath, that's me after, like, we didn't plan on my mother passing because they tell you you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. But my mother was only 69. She had no other medical issues. So that's where I don't know if it was the medicines or what, but something did it. And then the mission forward, and how grateful I am to you. And that's the big message here is not just sad. I mean, I posted a message just before we got on. I was almost crying because, I talked this morning about the cover of the book, and
mm,
it kind of hit me hard. When thinking about it, that moment was the dance my mother and I had at our wedding, but time froze like in a movie, and Parkinson didn't exist in that moment, and that memory can never be taken from us. So it's just still not easy to discuss. But that's why I picked that picture because that was the moment. probably one of the best moments of my life, just dancing with her and forgetting life and just smiling together. And I miss that moment. So that's why I did the book, and that's why I still do what I do today. And it's not for everyone, and I'm not looking to sell it. I just wanted her journey out there. It is great for people who really want to know the inside of this world of Parkinson's and caregiving and dementia. And I don't think it's just for people with Parkinson's. It really needs to get to the bigger picture in the whole world, because if we can get more people aware, like I continue to repeat, like a broken record, but we'll definitely find a cure.
Mm. And George, the other thing that I was curious about is while the caregiving journey is burdensome, is multi-layered, were there moments or glimmers of hope that you experienced with your mom?
Yeah, I mean, I had as an attorney and just a person, I'm kind of motivated by getting things done. So I'm a list person. I'll make a list, check
Yeah.
it off, and I'll accomplish them all. But I'm telling you, we made a list of everything you can even imagine for her. Every time I checked it off, I had hope, like
Mm.
even down, I'm a cop and I didn't, in Florida now, it's legal with a license to have medical marijuana, but it was like a horror movie for me because I didn't want to go, I'm in for the law. So even just dealing with legal and medical marijuana was like a funny comedy show. Going into a store, I mean, I never did any of that stuff. So, that was all my hope with the marijuana, was that she could at least have less pain. I knew it wouldn't solve it, but it didn't work because it was just a disaster. Like the doctors don't talk to the distilleries, and I write a lot about it, but it's just like the Wild West when you talk about
Mm.
legal marijuana, and I don't know anything about that stuff. So, every time I had hope and every time I tried something, it kind of got crushed. And just,
Mm.
unfortunately, again, we ran out of ideas, and there's nothing even today that I could have done to change that. The only thing I do wonder some days is my mother had it for a long time and she never really told me about it. I think she was very amazing because she didn't want to burden the family. But
Mm.
maybe if she had told us, 15 years earlier and how serious it was. But again, she didn't know that she would,
Yeah.
none of us were told. Again, to this day, you can pass from that. So it's no point in looking back at the regrets. You just have to look forward and hope that we're reaching other people. And I'm on every social media. I don't know why. And people joke because they think I'm a big corporation, but it's just me. And, I try to respond to everyone. It's overwhelming. The support's amazing, but I still think we still have a lot of work to do. And I just wish everybody would work together as a team, because I still feel that as a team, our voices are so much stronger. But there are individuals and organizations that just still very difficult. And I guess there is, unfortunately, politics still in it all, and there really shouldn't be.
Yeah. And I think that's the other side of it is personal experience. But then when you think about personal experience, coupled with different politics
Yeah.
and just almost that red taping, all of those kinds of things, then there are lots of barriers
I
that
do.
are
Yeah,
met.
I do try to look at the other side because, again, let's pretend we're online. I wrote about this too, but I'm a cop and lawyer. Some people think that's not even real because most people are just one thing, but I actually, I have everything. It's all legal, and legitimate. I'm actually bar certified and all that. But if you don't know me and you just see me online, you don't realize who I am or what I am. So I was told the other day, because there's something called Team Fox, that's the athletes and all the fundraising for Michael J. Fox Foundation. And on the podcast, my dream is to get everyone who does all this amazing work, put
Mhm.
them on like you do, and just so people know. But people don't know you. They think there's some ulterior motive, sadly. And
Mhm.
then either they don't respond or they don't, want to do it. And that's the part that's the most heartbreaking too, is I literally just want to help people. I don't want anything in return. And
Mhm.
even there's a few or some that just either don't know me still and they're not aware. But like I said, I'm so grateful for individuals like you taking risk, I guess, having me on and being able to share my story. Maybe they'll see this someday. But again, I have to keep going back to if people don't all work together, it's going to push us further from a cure, and that's not the goal.
No.
And if you look at the videos I have and all my social media, even today, the sad one, it's not always easy, but you'll know I'm a real person. I'm real legitimate. And I
Mm.
don't, somebody once gave me $5 at a walk and I actually gave it back to them and then they gave it back to me. I ran home that day. I donated to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, took the receipt, emailed it to the gentleman. He never wrote back, but this is not about money. If I wanted it to be about money, I just go do law again and do all my other, you can do well. But this is something that I'm passionate about and it goes beyond just me, but unless we all work together again, it's harder to get the message out there. And I've luckily, and to be honest, even getting to Australia and sharing their journey was not easy. So, I always wonder why, but now I did, and they loved it. And, it's online, it's on the website. And I
Mm.
just want people to know, unfortunately, people in Australia have Parkinson's and we need to help them too. I don't know why that message sometimes is so difficult to get across, but like I said when we started, nothing and no one will ever stop me. It's all for good purposes, and thankfully, the majority of people are so incredible, 99%, and it just means a lot to me that they don't have to go through this either. Michael J. Fox Foundation has a great saying, and I am with it. We're going to be here till Parkinson's is not, and that's like the number one goal. Sometimes I think, I love to go to fisharon.com and it's a beautiful thing. And then I look at my daughter who's now 11 and I think to myself, should I ask her to continue this on when I'm no longer with us? And then part of me, the other side says, wait, I don't want it to continue because I want a cure. So it's an interesting inner struggle, but I'm sure it'll, even if we have a cure, I'll have the website just to remember my mother always. But, I don't want other people to have to get it, to have to learn about us when it's too late.
That's right. And I will be adding these links to the show notes as well so that people are able to contact you or, yeah, just if they're interested or curious about Parkinson's and the caregiver's journey. We've covered a little bit of ground, but George, is there anything that else that you would like to say that I haven't asked you about or just, yeah, your final key takeaways?
Yeah, I want to thank you again and your audience for this time. Again, it means so much more, not just to me, but the whole Parkinson's community. I usually leave any show with a little statement, but if you don't mind, this is to you and your audience. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I will advocate for you. We both will. And together, our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started. And the only reason I say it is, I've interviewed 600 people and I can't remember everything or everyone, but every morning, if you go to Together Basharan and click interviews, you'll see another incredible person's journey. And that's really what pushes me to keep going. I mean, I wasn't aware of a lot of it. They have boxing for Parkinson's, Pilates for Parkinson's, they have punching for Parkinson's, they have race car drive, they have so many things, but they're all out and all over the place. So what I did with this website is put resources for free, everything free, 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 free. I feel like Oprah Winfrey. We're gonna give you this, but we're not gonna give a car. Can't. But everything is like literally in one spot. If you click Parkinson's, it's all the different websites. Australia is there too. UK, Parkinson's in England. I mean, Iceland, everything. Just because they're out there and they're free, but now they're in one spot. We also have the section for in memory. So if anyone's lost a loved one, it's just about your loved one and remembering them. We have a entertainment, a media section now with we've been in magazines, newspapers, and I don't say that to brag because I could care less. I just want people to know that we're trying hard to get out there. And, I'm honored that we're now, with you because we're in Australia. The other day I was in India. It's like amazing how you could be in so many places at home now.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm sad at is my book is on Amazon, which I love. But when you talk about shipping costs and things, there's nothing I could do because I imagine if somebody really wants it in the UK, but so much extra because of shipping. But there is an ebook version which is much cheaper, like $10, something. So it's out there. But I just want that to get out. And just again, so grateful for your time, friendship, and hope that this is not the last time that we meet. And maybe someday I'll be able to email you and say we found a cure.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, George. For everyone listening, this Human Chapters will be available on YouTube, on podcast, and on the Facebook page. Thank you.
Thank you.